Patrick's Landing by Marie D. Henry, copyrighted 2010, episode 11. We ended episode 10 where Mr. Doucet had talked Oswald into coming, spend Christmas at his house to meet his daughter Lizzie. And the storm was going on outside the bunkhouse, of course, and deep in the woods. So he said he was thinking about if the storm was as bad as the other storms, he would probably not be able to get there for Christmas because it was a long ways away. And we ended up with I would never have to worry about going to visit old man Doucet's daughter. I will be lucky to get home, let alone go a long way offshore to Negadoo. It is difficult enough to travel that distance in summer, let alone in wintertime. It is 15 miles from Patrick's Landing to Bathurst, and then up to Negadoo is another 12 miles, or maybe more by horse and sled. It will be a long trip in the cold. For a few minutes he wished he had turned down the invitation. It will be difficult enough of a journey to get home from camp and then get back again after Christmas. He pushed the thoughts from his mind and let his weary muscles take him into the unawareness of sleep. The next morning the storm had abated, and the men got ready to go out to their designated working areas. Breakfast in the long log-built cookhouse was quiet. No one lingered around after eating pancakes, bacon, eggs, and thick slices of bread, all made by the camp cook and his helpers, the cookies. Young men not yet grown enough to work at cutting down the huge virgin trees, which took 2 men on a saw, or a crosscut saw. Often the trees were so big that a cut was made on each side of the tree, and a long, thick plank hewed out of a log was stuck into it, and each man stood on it. Then each took hold of a wooden handle of the crosscut saw, and one man would pull the sharp 2 to 6 inch wide blade towards him, while the other let his end go. When the blade was at the other man's arm's length, the one who had pulled the blade through the tree towards himself would relax his pull, and the other man would pull the saw back. Back and forward went the saw, and its huge sharp teeth dug deep into the soft wood of the tree. The men would stop to rest now and then and check the progress of their work. Oftentimes it took them an hour or more to cut down one tree. When they had sawed almost through to the axe notch on the side where they wanted the tree to fall, they would yell in unison, "Timber!" They yelled even if the other men were a safe distance away. And following that, they would let go of the handle of the saw and jump from their perch on the plank and get away from the slowly swaying tree as fast as they could in the deep snow. The tree would often sway in the wind for a few minutes before its weight, its height, and gravity slowly pulled it off balance, and it would crash to the ground, often breaking branches off the trees too close to it. If it got snagged in one of the other trees because of poor judgment in cutting the direction fall notch, it would sometimes kick back towards its stump, and the men did not want to be there if it did. When it leaned into another tree and stayed up, it became a danger to the men in a way that was known as a widow maker. There were two ways to get the tree down. One was to cut the tree that held it. The other was to climb the widowmaker and cut it off at the top where it was stuck. Either way was most dangerous, and such a tree could never be left. It had to come down. There were several men in camp whose work was only to bring down the widowmaker, and Mr. Doucet was one of those men.